Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Morning.
Bucky wants to say hi, Bonnie.
Bucky, do you want to say hi?
I'll be back.
Ready? Hello.
Oh, well, good morning.
Okay, go sit back on your chair. All right. Who's doing me?
Did you get my photos?
Yes,
We did.
we did.
Yeah, is that helpful?
It helped. Yeah, we've seen the place before. It's just that we couldn't open up the other documents.
No, but I got your direction to get the staff report and I downloaded it.
Right, okay.
And the thing that I did the other day was I figured that the September report was out of date, but the geotechnical report wouldn't have been updated. And that was 113 pages.
Huh.
And then I sent that little excerpt out the other day. That was, they're gonna go up to 50 feet high with new soils. And
Yeah, unbelievable, unbelievable.
Okay, so maybe we should get the meeting going, sir.
yeah, well, we
So
don't
I'm
have
gonna
a lot
take
of people on.
minutes. And I know Buzz is recording it, but also I'm gonna take minutes. So whatever we say, I'll send back in an email and
Okay.
we can
Okay.
send out to others.
And
Okay.
I'll be here just as long because of the privacy. The way I could do the only members was to do the waiting room. As soon as
I'm gonna
we
try
got
and call
all,
Don Woodrow, who says he's gonna be on, but normally forgets.
Well, you know, Rod, he might not even be home.
as soon
Yeah.
as we've got all the folks here, I'm still gonna be here, but I'm gonna mute and shut off my picture. But Charmaine's got my phone number if there's some question or whatever that you all have. Zoom wise, I'm still available.
Yeah, and
Great.
Buzz, it's okay if you listen. It's okay if you.
No, that's fine. I'm just gonna be rattling around on cleaning up my desk and
Hey,
you don't
Don,
want to
can you
listen
go
to
on
that.
Zoom meeting? It's at 9 o'clock. It's supposed to start and it's 9 o'clock.
Rod just,
You're welcome.
Dawn's coming on. Rod just called him. Did anybody hear from Stephen?
Yeah, it's
How about
Steve.
David?
He's David's coming in right
Here's
now.
David,
David's right here.
yay, David.
Hey,
And Stephen is coming?
I thought Steve Parker was coming.
So we should think of the agenda too for this. What is exactly what we're gonna talk about? What are we gonna talk about, folks?
So I just want to tell you that I have another meeting at 10. It's
Okay.
also a Zoom and Buzz is creating it. So I think what we need to do is make sure that people have reviewed the report and get your own issues out. But I think we want to hear from Rod and Bonnie the main issues that they found, so that we have talking points for Wednesday's meeting. Buzz,
Okay,
you have
I set this meeting up for 2 hours, so we're starting at 9, so the Zoom won't cut you off until 10. Just
But Charmaine's gonna be gone.
well,
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out that
Thank you, Buzz.
Thanks.
And I have to leave at 10 as well.
Okay, so then we should be concise here.
Yeah.
so what I want to say is that I want to come away from this meeting with a list of things that I can put in the Brickyard Landing newsletter for Sunday morning. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to send a email to the person that does the newsletter, which is Ida Abelson, and tell her everybody should sign in to the meeting on Wednesday night. And here are some issues for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're gonna let us speak or not, but normally there's only 3 minutes allowed. And the other point is, we can write stuff to the planning commission or design review board be ahead of the meeting, so we can get stuff into the agenda as these are notes. And so those are the key issues. And I thought this was a planning commission meeting. This is a design review board meeting. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't feel as mad because that's a directional but not a decision-making body. And they're like we're a mini-me of design review board for the land use committee. But our whole function was to square things away at the local level instead of going to a city level. So,
Well, I think squaring things away is actually should be amended to the idea that we need to inform people of what the plans really are and how the push is going forward with some level of ignoring the community. They posted the proper things, but I think, Charmaine, you said one of the people there who is within 300 feet did not get proper notification.
Yeah.
And this is something that the city often does, and then, blinks their eyes wide and says, oh, must have been an oversight. So I think we need to have a plan to have a list of the people that are most highly affected, the people right on either side of this development, their addresses, and we need to have a level of buy-in from them. If they don't have buy-in, if they're not going to work hard on this and protest it, they're not going to get the rest of the community too involved either. And I think that's important if we want to have a reasonable kind of response that will have enough oomph to it to have city council sit up and take notice, because this is all going to end up in front of city council at some point. And if we don't pack the meeting and, really stress community involvement about this, it'll just slide right through.
and I'm going to make another point though. It's good for people to participate with open ears and closed mouth, so they hear what the design review board says. Because the board is going to. I know Jonathan's been running them hard recently, and they're just ignoring what he said. But for these people to learn where the position is on the design review board, it could be for us. And I want to state, I don't think we're supposed to be NIMBYs. All we want to do is make sure we have a good project when it's done. And
Right.
I don't believe a 50-foot rise in elevation with compacted soils is going to leave you anything more than a leaning tower piece of buildings. We're going to be like that Millennium Tower in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing at this point that they're doing this push forward to try to get it through, because we have a very clear indication that those hills are not stable. And you can ask the 15 houses that are no longer allowed to have people living in them right now. And one of our friends is in one of those houses.
It was.
And that's a clear indication of the instability of this area. And it's basically the same hill. They're all in a line with each other there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I start with a question? Because I only got through about the first 10 pages of the 144-page report this morning. But one of the issues I saw right at the top was about the waivers that are granted to this development, and a paragraph in there that said the waivers, more or less, it didn't use the word automatic, but the waivers were basically automatic, that unless they violated certain standards, they were eligible. And I went, where is our input there, and where is the flexibility, and what is negotiable, so that we don't waste our time on things that aren't negotiable.
Everything's negotiable.
No, but these waivers are essentially saying they bypass this, and this, as long as they meet certain standards. And usually the standards are the general plan and any site-specific plans that have already been approved. I think, and I don't believe the PG&E Tower site has ever had an approved EIR for any particular project. That's my recollection, that was
So-
there.
Does it have one now? Have they done one?
There's a general plan, so the general.
No, I'm talking about the developer. Have they done?
Yeah, they've done an EIR,
Okay.
but the EIR was based on a former EIR.
So the waivers are not really in effect until the plan is approved, is what you're saying.
But I think the city accepted the EIR as complying to a previous one. And so they didn't raise any of the issues here. And technically that's density, number of buildings,
Mhm.
units per site, and doesn't match what's expected around the area. So you've got a medium density residential, and as long as you do that, they're fine. The issue I have is rebuilding a hillside to what it was 100 years ago isn't necessarily going to be good. And I'll tell you, the geotechnical report, which I studied yesterday, only briefly though, they essentially got it out. They said, well, there's going to be some subsidence here. There's going to be some landslide potential. There's water issues in the ground already. They're going to find perched water. And if you get a slick piece of clay and you get it wet, it's lubricated, and now you see what you see at Seacliff. The hillside is starting to slide down the hill.
Right, right.
And
So-
I can't see why we would say, yeah, that's fine. We want our new residents to lose their homes after a matter of years.
And
Yeah.
one thing we should probably stress about this too is right now, the city's been paying hotel fees, and they're stopping on the 23rd for the people in Seacliff. And the city is gonna end up, because they approve this, ultimately responsible. And the other question I wanted to ask you, Rod, is there any time span for an environmental report to go stale and a new one be required? Because I think part of success with getting this to be a reasonable project is to not let them right away get everything they want. We need to slow the whole process down, and making them perhaps do more due diligence is going to be a process to do that.
That's certainly a strategy. I think it was interesting. The other thing that drew my attention on the staff report was the fact that they basically presented as a virtue the idea that they were restoring the original slope on that property. And that's just a leap of faith that unsupported. And I think they need to be called on that. I mean, it's basically another way of supporting what Rod is saying about the dangers of the fill, that you can't assume that you're doing something positive for the property, for the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of restoring a hillside to its natural state, that whole hillside was excavated but before World War II for infill. I mean, even George Miller Regional Park technically didn't exist. And that was a rail yard that was made by excavating the hillside upland of that.
So I'd like to say one thing that I think we might want to accomplish in this meeting is some level of strategy. And it seems like this is a pretty big report. Rod hasn't read all of it yet at all. I haven't even looked at it. I've only looked at pictures. I think we need to have like a little subcommittee that is going to become very familiar with this report so that we can speak intelligently and convincingly about the problems with this site and with some of the goals of this developer. And if we don't have that level of expertise, I don't think we're going to get far. And I think we need to be able to be precise. Rod has good ability to read these things too. But I think we should have a group of us that get more fluent in the issues so that, again, we can stand up in front of a group and be precise and accurate. We
So
need to,
are you talking about like if we presented at city council, for example?
yes, we need to be getting prepared for that one for sure.
Well-
And we need to really establish a group of individuals that are going to commit to coming to city council.
And
Like I s-
planning commission
And
first.
planning commission too, but at the very end, it's gonna be city council. Unless they just, you know, do an end run around us and, you know,
Okay,
pay off enough people so that they get what they want.
but let me point out the sequence. You have the design review, first you're supposed to have neighborhood councils looking at things. Then you have design review board. The design review board, yay or nays something. Then they go, once the design review board approves something, and they don't necessarily have to, then they go to planning commission. Planning commission can approve or deny a project based on the recommendations of staff and the design review board and input from neighborhood councils. But if the planning commission nixes it, the developer will go to the city council. So there's the checks and balances. So a city council hearing is only when it hasn't been fully vetted and accepted by the community and the city at the planning commission. The planning commission can be where the buck stops. So our first thing is to make sure that the planning commission is up to date of what the key issues are. And I think we've got to, if anybody has the ability to go take more pictures of the hillside sliding down behind Seacliff, we'll say, this is what they're asking us to support, a design that's going to be imminently challenged and not necessarily safe. If those are the
Deadly.
things. And then
I think we should use strong language.
the other one is, what did we say, 1,500 truckloads of dirt?
I know.
I mean, nobody that has a night shift or swing shift will have any rest during the day because you're gonna have all those trucks downshifting and driving up a hill.
Oh,
And I mean, just,
oh.
where are they getting all this dirt? And is that really necessary?
And will it be the appropriate kind of dirt that actually is making a successful project? I mean, what are they gonna throw in there? Old concrete?
No,
Yeah.
they're actually required to get engineered fill, which is compactable, but they've allowed something with a 23%
Clay?
compressibility standard, which means it's gonna have clay substances in the thing, and they say it's gonna be expansive soils. So they said expect some settlement in this. And I've done a lot of excavation and refill projects for subterranean things where we normally say a 90% compaction rate. What that means is you have a 10% compaction that will happen after the fact, where things will settle. If you go 50 feet and you have a 90% compaction, I can tell you that 10% of that 50 feet, which is 5 feet, is going to be an elevation change. I'm going to see people not able to open their doors or windows.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
I just think this is a dumb idea. Personally.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
these people are probably not motivated by anything other than a certain, I mean, they're doing this project because they're a business and they expect to make a quantity of money on this business. What we have to stress is, once they're done with making their money, every developer walks from this city and does not fulfill, and it has a long record of not fulfilling the things they said they would do. And, you know, I don't know why Richmond is such a dodo bird about this, but we appear to be. And you don't find the same things happening in Walnut Creek. Somewhat, it happens
I don't
everywhere.
know, we just saw a house sliding down into Orinda, so.
Well, that's
Not
true, but
necessarily
that's
so.
more of a storm issue.
That house had been there for a long time, and it wasn't a development. It was just a
Right,
house,
it was
that-
one single home, yeah.
Anyway,
But what I'm saying is that ultimately Richmond's gonna get holding the bag fiscally and, in a certain level morally, if we do not hold these developers to the highest standard and creating a project that is reasonable and safe.
yeah, and I think that's part of our introductory statement to any analysis we offer, because the fact Richmond's liability here is a key issue. I think strategically that is good. Let me ask a question. We're talking so far, all we've talked about is the geological issues. Is that our main concern? Now, I know in our previous meetings, the ones that I've attended, there have been issues of parking, there have been issues of handicapped access, there have been other issues discussed. Speaking again strategically, are we, when we go in to talk to the planning and design review and city council, do we want to present a multiple of issues, or do we want to just simply focus on where we think they are most at risk and most flawed? Which is more strategic?
I think that we hit them with every single element that is inappropriate, unsafe, disrespectful to surrounding communities, which is Seacliff and Brickyard, cutting off people's sunlight and view. We don't have a view ordinance in Richmond, except in one area, I believe, right, Rod?
Just where we are.
Kind of where
But
we are.
It's a view for pedestrians, not for.
Yeah, for pedestrians.
Residents.
But I think that what we do is we get our group or the subgroup very comfortable with all of the elements of this plan. And you're not going to win if you say, oh, this is the wrong thing. And they'll say, oh, we'll fix that little thing right away. We need to hit them up with every single element, that so people get a picture that this is a group that has a lot of problems with this. I mean, the way to get this development rounded up into a better development or completely squashed flat and not happening at all, which I don't think will happen unless they decide to flip it. And developers do that. They'll get the minimal amount of buy-in from the city, and then they'll sell this plan to somebody else, and we'll be starting over again. But that's why we need to hit them up with everything all at once. We can't just pick and choose. We have to have a whole list. It has to look impressive. It has to look scary. And their whole idea is we have a whole list. It has to look good, and everybody is going to be happy. There's a big gap between those two positions.
Yeah, and when I was reading the report, I kept reading that they were responding to the issues. Like, oh no, well, we're doing this way because they said it would be better. They wanted a gold door or a wood door and gold trim or something. And they said, oh yeah, we've changed it. It's a wood door now. It made it look like they were responding to the issues. To me, when I read it, it's like, oh, but we've done this.
That's what they do, and it's
like,
very,
oh, we're angels. We followed through. That's what it made it look like to me.
If we have to worry about the trim on a door, then we're not looking at the right issues.
That was
Right.
probably design review board.
Yeah,
Right.
they're just very much, it's a bait and switch with developers oftentimes.
Yeah.
And then the other alternative is if they can't do what they presented, what would the city in the neighborhood accept as reasonable and prudent? And I would think, and they don't like it, is the condo concept similar to Brickyard, that you put in 1 or 2 large buildings, maybe 4 stories high, but you have a lot of land all around them that's vacant. And you get the same density, but people get the views because you don't have, you know, the domino look of a hillside filled with homes, so nobody has a view. Are we interested in pursuing that as an alternative? And I think the world of condos is harder for developers because they've got to build everything all at the same time and sell it. And the condo owners can amass and sue the developer easier than single homeowners.
I mean,
So-
these are not gonna be, aren't these all going to be rental units?
That
Yeah.
was my understanding, yeah.
And the other element of that we should all be really concerned about is the fact that they've shrunk the spaces for outdoor effect.
Yeah, I
And-
didn't understand that. What does that actually mean? That outdoor space? Does that mean like patio or deck? Is that what it means?
Yeah, you're normally required, like you said, I think you noted it, normally it's required 300 feet, which is like a little backyard patio. So you have a little outdoor space, you can put 2 chairs and a barbecue. If you have only 70 square feet, you can't do that. That's a walkout deck in the middle of the air.
70 square feet? Is that what?
Yes,
it
that's
was?
your playground.
Oh, my God. Oh,
So-
well, that's a condo. You know, I mean, if you're living in Brickyard Landing,
Yeah, I mean, you don't, but you have all that space with the garden and the community areas and so on.
you
Which they've
as an
also
amenity.
shrunk.
do.
And so these people are jacking it full of everything, and there's no real playground area or space for people to go to. Well,
No,
they say, but we've got this beautiful hill to play on.
yeah, well, and in fact, everything they're doing is to maximize the view, to maximize the return, right?
Yes.
You know.
They're not maximizing the view that I could see. There's almost no view in these.
So then there's absolutely no reason for that fill. The only reason for that fill is so that you establish views as you go up the hill. And you don't have buildings behind other buildings.
That the first row will have
Yeah.
a view of the offices across the street.
Yeah,
Those three or 4 story office buildings. The
yeah,
first row of these townhouses will have the parking lot and office
all right,
building. And otherwise they're all stacked up on top of each other with maybe little bitty views, but it's like peekaboo views, I think they would
oh,
call them.
well, then there's even less reason for all that fill.
One
They're
thing
really-
maybe we should also think about is the fact that because it's a new development, they will not be under Richmond rent control. And they had at some point some, I think, apartments or some percentage of the building was supposed to be for handicapped. I don't know if that's still there. And
It's supposed to be there, but they only have garage access.
they only have garage
Right.
access.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is not
Right.
usable. That is not usable for anybody in a wheelchair.
However, I looked it up, and
Yeah.
that's what the rules are. You only
That's
have
what-
to have ground floor access, but it's foolish to say this is a handicap unit when unless they have a full living area down in the garage, there's
Exactly.
nothing they can do.
Right, right. So but that's ADA, that's the ADA rule, is it just ground access? That's all you need?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, if you have a multi-story building with different levels of floors for different residences,
yeah,
then you put an elevator in, like Brickyard has.
right,
Then you have handicap access to other floors.
right.
But because you make them like townhouse looks, so everybody has a vertical home, you don't have to do that.
Right,
So if they had done it with, somebody's on the first floor, somebody's on the second floor, somebody's on the third floor, and they built them as a condo with the common corridors and elevators, then they could really truly have handicap access.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah, elevators are expensive.
Elevators are expensive, yeah. All right, well.
You know, I think when that rule was written, they were thinking a one-story house. Like
Yes.
have access to the first story means
Ah.
you get to go in the first floor of a house where they have a kitchen, living room, bathroom, you know? I
Right.
think that's what they were thinking.
Yeah, well, you get a bunch of attorneys and smart architects, they'll figure out a way around things.
So,
Hey, sorry, Dave.
Yeah,
so one of the things I was gonna say at this point, what time have we got? What's the time?
we
here?
have a
9:30.
half hour.
It's 9:30, okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to figure out within our group, Rod, are you willing to read through this whole thing and really organize it so we can see and be more, I'm willing to read through and do as much as I can.
Mhm.
And you can explain to me what I don't understand. And so we get very familiar with their plan.
I'm,
That if we're not familiar,
I'm happy to read through it as well. I think breaking it up and, assigning, all of us different aspects is a good idea.
that is-
Because it's a lot for any one of us, unless one of us
right,
isn't me. But I just want to say I'm prepared to look at any of it, but not the geology, because I'm very much aware of what I don't know.
Okay, I refuse to acknowledge I don't know things, so I'm good.
Good, you're in charge.
I'm not a geologist, but I studied geology.
Okay, well, the closest I've come to geology is English poetry.
One
So-
course in geology, mainly for oil exploration.
Oh, yeah, that's what mostly geology
but you've done
is.
enough projects,
Oh,
Rod.
but I worked for geotechnical firms.
Yeah.
And I
So
consulted in that area.
So what are
Okay.
the main parts of this report that, from just skimming over it, Rod, do you see that we should assign to people?
I think what we should do is look at the conditional approvals and take away, are these conditional approvals appropriate for the project? And I think what we ought to do is do a round robin of emails coming up later today, because I just opened up, thank you, Charmaine, for showing me that route. I didn't see a direction to staff reports until you gave me the hot link. And so I've downloaded this to a flash drive. So I've got a flash drive with just PRNC and Brickyard PG&E site. Because then I don't have to worry about losing at web access.
Oh,
So, but I think there's a possibility, if you read between the lines of the staff report, do you feel like this person's enamored with the project, supportive, or doing as they're told? I'm kind of reading that the staff report essentially said, well, I'm trying to put the best spin on this, but it's still lipstick on a pig. Is that
Yep.
how you read it, Charmaine?
Yes,
Then one of the things I think we should think about when we read this is not just that point, but also finding out what best building practices and development practices this group might be skipping over or bridging, however you want to say it. Because I think if we don't have an idea of what best practice is, we won't be able to speak efficiently to the fact that they're not doing it.
Well, I think once again, the area is spoiling the view to get housing density, and they don't really care about views. And
but you don't have to talk about a view. It's just that at Brickyard Landing, we don't have that many windows. I have one big window. And if I don't have that window, it's not about view, it's about light. I will have no light. I won't even have a view of a tree.
Hmm,
You know, it will be like a cave for those units on the end.
Yes, because these guys are gonna tell her
I
how
don't
much,
want to say view because people think, oh, the elite people have a view. So they want to fight for their view. I don't want to talk that way. I want to talk like everyday living. People deserve a window with light and something outside to look at, not this gorgeous view that we have. I don't want to come off saying that, you know, we have gorgeous views, now we're complaining.
yeah, you know, you're absolutely right that it is a question of livability for the units that are nearby. And in Berkeley, they used to have sunlight studies where if somebody was going to be putting something up, even in addition to their home, they had to do a sunlight study on whatever sides of their property faced other properties. Now, they don't do that anymore, frankly.
however, in the aspects of the environmental impact report, light is an issue. You know, how, I mean, that is, I mean, having people all of a sudden live in a cave when they thought they were living with an area that had light coming in. They say, well, that's only a couple hours a day. Midday, everybody gets light. And so,
Well, they might say that, but I think we need to see the exact
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
invited,
references to it.
I invited them to come to Brickyard Landing and Seacliff. I know people at the edge, at the houses on the edge. I know people that live there. And I know people that live here and that I could get access to show them. I invited them. Please come, let me show you. Stand here and imagine the fill and a 3-story building. Imagine, you know, and they never came, of course not.
They're not going to.
Hey, maybe we need to take pictures from those viewpoints.
I think actually I should just anecdotally, when Mary Lee and I first discovered Point Richmond, and you know, we lived at Brickyard Landing for 10 years. One of the first places we looked at was the end unit in the D building on the 3rd floor. So it would have looked directly across the PG&E property. And we loved the end unit. We looked out and we said, there's going to be a building there someday. And we went, I don't want to buy this unit. I mean, I loved the end unit. I loved having, it had that little balcony off the kitchen, if you know those units.
yeah, and a lot more than 70 square feet too.
Yeah, so it was just a wonderful, but we lived in a place where we suddenly had a taller house next door that, you know, that they demolished the existing house and built, so we had that experience and went, no.
And was that end unit, was that valued at a higher price than other units when it
Oh,
was?
sure. Oh, yeah,
Because they were selling the view.
yeah, oh, yeah, I
Yes.
mean, the light, for sure, there's a little bit of view from that, but you've got light on 2 sides instead of just a window, you know, on the front, which we ended up having, you know, the window on the front, but we ended up on the 4th floor, so we had the cathedral ceilings, and it was a good trade-off. Anyway, but we were very conscious of what was at stake there.
But what we're saying is the light is a premium.
Oh, it is a premium,
And
it
that
absolutely
these
is.
people are going to take away that premium for the existing homeowners.
Yeah. I don't know, you know, what the,
What my,
They just don't care, Rod. That's
I
not
was
the
gonna,
point.
that
They
was
don't
gonna be my,
care.
that was gonna be my
here's
question.
my violin.
Yeah, you know, and what legal responsibility does anybody have in that regard? There's a law probably regarding, well, you're saying there isn't even a law regarding views. I mean, if we lived in the Berkeley Hills, you could cut down trees, but you could build a 3-story house and block the view of your neighbor. I mean, there was a tree ordinance, but not a high, you know, there was the 35-foot height ordinance. That was what there was.
So one of the other things is, should we try and get a contact list for the people most highly affected so that they are aware of what's going on? I mean, people are notorious for the most part. It's hard to do meetings after a work day, etc., and commit to that. But I think we still need to be able to tell people what's going on, and in a way that will hopefully energize them to participate. I'm sure some people are already going to because they're most highly affected.
Right.
But we need to have everyone that's most highly affected to also be like somebody who can contact 5 people more.
We
have like 300 or 400 people here, and we have a newsletter that goes out to everybody, and that's what I want to access tomorrow. I'll do it today, so it'll get in there tomorrow. And at the last LUDRC meeting, you saw the number of people we had, because most of them live here at Brickyard Landing,
Yes.
where I am.
It's
So
out of
I have
control.
access to those people.
That is great. Now, do we have, if, you'll have an informative article there in Ida's newsletter. Will you have a contact, something that will allow them to stay in contact? Maybe they can, do you have their emails, Charmaine, or
No.
just Ida does?
They pulled down the menu, huh?
But so you could ask people to email you, and then we would have those contact information.
Well, the other thing, can we give them some hot links if we a hot link
Yes.
one to the staff report, a hot
Yeah.
link to whatever
Oh.
we have available
Right.
after today, that so people are going to read 2 paragraphs. Those that are interested will read the 144 pages, but that's like 1%. But if we give a synopsis of key takeaways of here's where we have trouble with what we're seeing, and we need to pay attention, because I think what I'd like to see is a lot of people attending that design review board meeting, not speaking out, but listening so that they can get themselves armed. This is sort of like getting the armory ready and stocked with the weaponry and ammunition for the planning commission hearing.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do. So if sometime today, it may not happen right now, but if sometime today you can give me a list to put in an email or this newsletter that says, here are some of the main concerns that we have seen from PRNC LUDRC.
Exactly. And the other thing is, if all of us, when we see this, we go back to the reports of where this information is presented by either the consultants or by staff reports and so on, so that it's not just, oh, we just made that up. We have a back reference so that they say, well, how did you come to this conclusion? We can point. So we have to be able to interpret, but tell them our source data of where we're getting the stuff from, so that we don't come across just as NIMBYs whining and screaming, but we have some valid positions and how we came to those.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the job of the Land Use Design Review Committee anyhow, is to analyze this stuff, bring out the salient points for others to understand, and then have them yay or nay what we think is the right thing to do.
And as more people become energized by this, and there's a bigger pool of people looking at it, people will have friends that are more, able to understand some of these reports. Most people have a lot of very different people that they know. And at some point, the residents that are most highly affected may also well gather together to hire their own professional to actually counter the developer's version of things in a more meaningful way. that might have to happen if you really want to succeed. Which we did at Seacliff and didn't work, quite frankly, years ago.
With the neighbors hired that developer, it wasn't a land use committee. The thing for us to remember is we're a nonprofit, we can't take political positions. And so we're essentially just the facts, man. That's all we're trying to do.
Well, I think that's a good stance, is to say, we're just trying to be factual, but everyone has a viewpoint. And it's not, it would be somewhat unfair for us not to say our viewpoint happens to be towards having the best possible project that this city can have. And that's our point, is that we're not out to screw developers. We just mostly want to make sure that our citizens and our town is not put in a bad position because of a developer who, plunks down a song and dance and then waltzes out of town with pockets overflowing with money, which is not an image we should talk about, Bonnie, so I won't.
You don't like the wealthy? Is that what you're saying?
I like wealthy people. I wish I was one of them, but what I don't like is wealthy, unprincipled people.
Okay, so I think we could come to a conclusion that we need to do some work today. And through email, maybe we can come up with a short list or 2 paragraphs with references. I mean, I started it on the email that I sent. I said, here are my concerns, because I just wrote them down as I was reading through it. I can go back to that document and add reference points, but I'd like to hear from other people about their concerns so we could see what are the main concerns, not just what I wrote down. I was just doing it as an idea, as it came to me.
Well, Rod, are you willing to commit to reading this whole thing today and helping out?
I might not be committing to putting that light in for Nancy.
Well,
today,
you
so I
can
do that tomorrow.
You can do that tomorrow, or we can get this. When do you have to have it in, Charmaine?
I'm gonna email Ida this morning and let her know to be prepared for it, and then I'll ask her what's the latest time.
Yeah.
But I would
Yeah.
say, maybe by 6 o'clock.
Today?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm booked through dinner time. I mean, I can work on it tonight, but the day is already committed.
Yeah, Rod has got
I
some.
was committed, but it's deferrable.
Yeah, but Rod has some.
Just crawling underneath the house, I'll put that off.
That's easy to put off. I put that one off whenever I can.
Yeah, it's not even our house. That's the other problem. I think you could work on it tonight, though. If we could put this
Well,
off
she needs
until
to have that out this evening.
you have to have it out this evening,
We have
Charmaine.
to have something. I mean, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send the reference to the report, even though people may not click on it, may not open it. But, I want something to send to the people. We can send something later as well. I can convince Ida because it's that important and she knows the importance of this. So I could convince her to send another, it's called Share the Wealth. That's a newsletter. So I can ask her to send another Share the Wealth, maybe Monday.
Okay. So I was just gonna say, immediately you could send a link. You could also give a list of the kinds of concerns we've discussed and a little note about how to keep in touch with developments. Maybe with this committee.
And
How do you want them to keep in touch with this committee?
To you.
So email to me?
Well,
Do we have an interactive website for the neighborhood council
Yeah,
where people can post stuff? Who monitors that? Philip?
June.
Okay.
yeah, I think it sounds like it would be hard for you to have to field all these emails, Charmaine. That sounds
Well,
like a
I could just
burden.
send them on to the LUDRC or send them on to Rod and Bonnie.
Okay,
Thanks.
There you go.
well, I think the other thing that you might just want to include.
You want me
in-
to make a new email? I can make a new email. ludrc@gmail.com.
Yeah, what she's saying is we just, instead of having to fill in our mailbox.
That
Ah,
might be a good plan. Then everyone could access it. It wouldn't be a private email. It would be a group email in a way, wouldn't it?
Well, I've done that Google Groups before and where everybody has access to it. But yeah, I could set up another email in Google.
And if we have that information or the ability to do that, Charmaine, maybe one of the things that might be really good to put in your little blurb there to your group is that we're actively seeking people who want to be involved in helping this project, because we need some people besides us committee members
yeah,
to also put some of their time and energy into this project. And if we get outside of our group people, all like the Brickyard people that you know, and also some Seacliff people, we have a greater chance of success for at least some of the things we want. You know, we're never going to get everything we want. These people are not going to, roll up their carpet bags and walk out of town. But we want to get the best we can possibly get.
Okay,
So we need a plan to conclude this meeting and go forward. So Rod, will you set up the Google Groups email and get back to us on it?
yes,
And he'll also read and look down the list that you have given already and see if he can add into it can you do some quick reading, Rod? Because we can. What time do you actually need this, Charmaine? You want it by 6 o'clock tonight?
Do you want me to make a quick phone call to Ida and just find out the time?
sure.
Sure.
Is she still selling real estate or
Yeah.
is she?
No,
Okay.
no, she's very active. Hold on, let me see if I can just get her right quick.
Okay.
And the reason why I called Don, who probably hasn't figured out how to get on the Zoom, is he's a geologist.
oh,
Ah,
I don't know if people understand. He taught
oh,
university geology, and he
oh,
works for the USGS when he's not
wow.
in our
Oh.
meetings. Although I think
yeah.
he's old enough to be well retired by now.
This is Don who? I don't know.
Don Woodrow, he's on our committee.
Oh, I've
and he
seen
was
the
on-
name, yeah.
You know, the
He was
phone,
on the design review board.
the
and we've had
phone
several
rang when we
several
were
times.
here, when we were in this meeting, our phone rang. It's probably Dawn trying to get on. I don't know if the
So,
computer thing is.
If I could add a couple of 2 cents about Don.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't know this officially, but dementia is setting in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
we've
is-
noticed too.
He has tried to become a lifetime member twice or 3 times in the past year. So just throwing that out there for what it's worth.
No, I
We've-
understand.
We've
And-
noticed too.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
things.
We've known Don since he moved to town.
Yeah,
He
well,
and
I'm-
my father knew
sure,
each
I
other.
just and I have very little other than him trying to send us money, and I keep trying to say, Don, you don't need to add to your lifetime amount as dues. But I know that June is a neighbor, so she and I occasionally bounce stuff off about about Don to see how he's doing. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, he lost his wife last year.
Oh yes, no, absolutely, and yeah, and it hasn't been
Well,
pretty since then.
Do you think that he's going to be competent to do
When you were starting
Yeah.
to, when you're starting to call on his memory, that's when I went, well, one of the things about dementia is they may not know today or last month or last year, but
Long
you know,
ago.
the career stuff may still all be there just as,
Oh, yeah.
just like a bright
Bonnie's
apple.
mom
So,
knew all of her grade school teachers. I couldn't tell you mine, but she had, her memory was good for about 5 seconds.
Yeah,
But
For short
old
term.
time stuff she remembered.
I
Amazing
didn't
stuff.
want to discourage, I just wanted to throw
No,
the
No,
information.
yeah, well,
So-
we'll see. I'll see if I can tap that ancient knowledge and
There you go.
bring
There you
it to current analysis. You might not be able to, because you might be able to say, yeah, bad, and then forget we even had the conversation. I don't know how.
Oh, yes, no,
He's going.
that's why I think he's trying to pay his, he's forgotten that a couple of years ago, he paid his lifetime and,
Yeah.
so there we are.
Yeah,
tough.
no, we're aware of that.
Okay, that's,
And I've asked him several times if he wanted to retire from the land use. He said, no, it's something I want to do this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
So,
he also, maybe not quarterly, but on some kind of level like that, I get a note from him because I monitor, I'm in charge of the Point Richmond Neighborhood Council email address. And he'll email and say, so when are we going to back to face-to-face
Yeah.
general meetings? He's the only one that lobbies me. There might be others that lobby other members of the board. I don't know that, but he was at the big debate at Washington School, and he was just like a candle. He just thought, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. 96 people in the room, and
no, he actually responded on this one, said, well, at least I'll see people. I'd rather do it face to face.
yes, exactly.
Well, he's not a Luddite, but he's getting befuddled by by internet stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we're always lucky we're able to figure out how to do it. I start off half an hour ahead of time, so I make sure that I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm able to, she's on the phone, but I'm able to text her and she says this evening will be okay. And she says by 9 p.m. tonight.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
good.
very
You can-
lenient.
That's good. That's
I
great.
think
'Cause you can do some of it in the evening then.
I
Yeah.
have to run. Do we want to talk again before the meeting, the design review board committee meeting, or?
I think we can just do it with ad hoc emails. I'll try to
Okay.
set up a Gmail account right now
Okay,
and
good,
send it out to everybody.
very good.
And yeah, if and Charmaine, if there's people that you have emails for that, we can send it to them too, right? Can't you send it to them too?
We can send emails to other people, but I'd rather be in response than reaching out.
I know, but we
Yeah.
need to let them know about this new
Yeah,
account.
well, see, that new account will be listed in the newsletter.
Oh,
for
okay, good.
Brickyard.
All
And then
right.
the Brickyard people will say, okay,
Yeah.
and I expect to see a lot of emails.
What about Seacliff? There are still people living there.
Yeah, there
Oh,
are.
yeah, that end there are for now. But yeah, I don't know is there a Seacliff HOA that you can access
think
or a
so.
letter?
You could
Yeah.
code- There is?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
have access to Lisa. Lisa's the vice president of Point
Oh,
Richmond
okay.
Neighborhood Council. She lives in Seacliff and she's part of, she knows how to get it to the development of Seacliff. And she's part of B Card, which is another whole aspect. A B Card is Brickyard Cove something development. What they do is it's a group of high-level thinkers and active people, and they have little money, and they look at all the development that's going on in Brickyard Cove area, including Terminal 1, and they are writing letters to planning, they're having some meetings with people. I went to a meeting at the Richmond Yacht Club about 2 months ago, particularly about Terminal 1, what we need to say in the meetings, what is the list of concerns and all of that. And so they're very active here, and they're also going to be doing the same thing we're doing.
Okay,
Very good.
Well, it would be good if we could find out all of their information, so we're not too repetitive.
Yeah. So,
Or maybe it's good to be repetitive so that they hear the same issues again.
and I believe more than one set of eyes on something is gonna find things that we won't all pick up on everything.
right.
And so I'm okay with them being independent.
Yeah.
Is,
And
we're,
the thing, and they usually send out emails every now and then. And if I get an email from them, I'm on their list, then I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay,
Okay.
great. All right, you guys are almost time out here. It's practically 10.
It
We don't
is.
want to keep
it
you.
is soon.
It is 10.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,